Hello, beautiful people. It's Lulu. Welcome to the Lulu Essey Podcast. Unscripted and entirely unedited. Hi, everyone. I am, what do I say? I'm beyond excited and so scared. I'm actually terrified. This is episode 1, and I'm doing episode 1 completely terrified. I decided to stop waiting to feel ready to start this podcast and just sit my ass down and record. Listening to people like Elizabeth Gilbert and Anne Lamont and Toni Morrison, they all say, they're speaking, of course, about writers, and they say, come to the page. And I have been saying to myself, go to the mic. If you want to be a writer, you write. If you want to be a podcaster, you podcast. And here I am. So, welcome for those of you who find me and are listening. Interesting story. There are actually only 3 humans in the world that know about this podcast and the fact that it's going to be launched. And I had very specific reasons for that, because I felt if I told too many people, I would get too frightened and then get into a whole twist about their expectations and living up to their expectations. So anyway, it was only 3 people. The one person is one of the most talented humans I know, and she does all my design, and so we had to get a page up for this podcast. And the other 2 people are the people who are going to be doing the jingle. And yes, there was supposed to be a really magical jingle at the beginning of the podcast, but it wasn't ready, and that is 100% okay. I'm still here, and this podcast can start without a jingle. So I am leaning into what I tell a lot of my clients to do, and that is lean into imperfection, because the truth is there is no such thing as perfection. So why this podcast? Good question. I've been wanting to do this for a very long time. And of course, so many good reasons not to start. Least of all, the fact that I don't have a really big following currently on this day, the 13th of November, 2024. And, I don't have a presence to fall back on. So many reasons not to start. But here I am. I just literally sat down with ChatGPT and said how to start a podcast, because I'm tired of waiting, and I'm tired of thinking if they can do it, then why can't I? So here I am, and I'm hoping that so many of you will find this and will enjoy it. Just to tell you a little bit about the podcast and what the format's going to be and why we're here. Well, firstly, we're here to have honest, vulnerable, real, messy conversation. And that's why I decided to make this podcast unscripted and unedited. And of course, I go through in my mind what I want to discuss in each episode. And, I jotted down, I think, about 3 points for this podcast. So I wanted to feel real. I think our lives are so curated. Well, let me rephrase that. The content which we consume in our lives is so curated. It's so edited. It's so polished. It's so, put together and overproduced, and it comes out and people are left thinking, oh my God, that's perfection. And well, okay, maybe there will come a time when I walk that path, but right now I want to walk this path of being gloriously messy and real and honest. I think that is such a huge thing for me, is to show up with honesty. I don't even want to use the word authentic, because I feel like that's just been so overused, and people hear the word authentic and kind of roll their eyes. So I prefer messy. Gloriously messy is even better than that. So this podcast is going to be conversational, and it's really geared towards you finding your own way and living life on your own terms and building a life that you really, truly love and relish. And no, I don't mean love 24/7, 365. That's impossible. But love the majority of the time. Let's start. Let's aim for that. And it's a conversation about being who you really want to be. Who is that person? Do you know that person? Have you explored that person? And that's the reason why I'm showing up here, is because this is who I want to be. And this is who I've wanted to be for a ridiculously long time. And so I'm stepping into that. And everything we talk about, everything I discuss, I will draw on my own life and my own experience and things I've experienced and I've read and I've heard and I've assimilated. So, and I invite you to do the same because, at the end of the day, we are all our own experts. But sometimes we need a little guidance along the way. We need a little nudge, or we need something to spark something inside of ourselves that just needs a little bit of a shake-up, an awakening. And that's what I hope that this conversation is going to do for you. And the fact that there are no sponsors currently means I can do what the hell I want, which is very exciting. No rules and no cannot do's. So, come along. I think this is going to be a really interesting ride. And it may change. 6 months down the line, I may make a different decision, but this is where I'm at right now. Real, raw, gloriously messy, and honest. And I just want to reflect for a moment on, you might be asking yourself, like, why another bloody podcast? Don't we have enough? And I took my friend Perplexity, who I'm getting very acquainted with, and did a little bit of research and wanted to find out how many podcasts there are globally. And I'm not sure if that was a good idea. But anyway, as of today, the 13th of November, 2024, there are currently between 4.1 and 5 million podcasts globally. Yep. And in 2023, there were 212,000 new podcasts created. And of course, the US leads with around 2 million active podcasts. And then as you start to dig into the data, you realize, oh, okay, there are that many podcasts, but not all of them are active. Anyway, I'm not about the data, but it's just to say that in amongst those 5 million, there is place for the Lulu Essey Podcast. I believe that wholeheartedly with every fiber of my being. And I know those of you who will resonate with this conversation are going to find me, and I will find you, and we'll learn along the way. And I am going to be dropping these episodes. Oh, doesn't that sound really fancy? Dropping these episodes. I'm going to be showing up to the mic, recording episodes so that you get a new episode every Thursday. And why a Thursday? Well, it's because I was born on a Thursday, and I thought, well, that's a good enough reason. I had to choose a day in the week, so that I could keep my commitment to myself first and foremost. And for starters, these podcasts are going to be short. They're going to be bite-sized. I like the word snackable because who doesn't love a good snack? So anywhere between 15 and 30 minutes. And again, that may change. But for now, that's what feels manageable for me. And that's what feels like for those of you who don't know me, it feels like I'm, not too much of a big time commitment. And then, as we get in our groove, it may go up. Let's see where this journey takes us. So with that, I hope that sets the foundation and tells you a little bit about kind of what this podcast journey is going to be. And maybe you want to know a little bit about me. Well, I live in New York. Should I say how old I am? I don't know. I'm very keen on speaking to Gen Z, and I'm kind of slightly worried that if they know my age, they won't listen. But I've lived an extraordinary life in so many ways. And recently, this year, on the 7th of August, I got my certification as a life coach, and I work full-time as an executive creative director in experiential marketing. Love what I do, love the people that I work with. And then I'm a life coach on the side when I have time and when I can squeeze it in a way that doesn't detract from my work as an executive creative director. And I love it. I love this work. I love having these conversations. I love my clients. I just think this is such, I know that this is what I was born to do. This is why I am here. And I had a reckoning with myself, and I thought to myself, well, what if nobody listens to this podcast? What if? And then the very next thought was, that's okay. I'm showing up for me. And that's what I tell my clients to do all the time, is to show up for themselves. This thing called life is an inside job. And then my next thought was, what if it's a huge fucking success? And with that, I felt pins and needles kind of all over my body, and a massive smile came to my face. And I thought, okay, that feels good. I think I'll hold on to that. And, in my work with my clients and in my Instagram content, I speak about self-love. And people think self-love is so out there and woo-woo, and it's kind of touchy-feely. And give me the career of my dreams and the money of my dreams and the partner of my dreams, and then I'll think about loving myself. It's like I want these real world things first. And what life has shown me is that it's the other way around. And that's where kind of I think something that we are missing. It all starts with that love of self. It all starts on the inside. Because isn't it true that your outside world is merely a reflection of what's happening inside? And sometimes that's hard to hear, because sometimes our outside worlds and our outside lives look like shit. So it's not easy to say, well, if that's looking like shit, what is going on inside of me? And it's not about blame. It's not about blame, and it's not about making yourself wrong. No, because I've done that and it doesn't work. And that's not what love is about. Love is not about making ourselves wrong and blaming ourselves. It's about realizing that that power to change is really inside of us. It's not out there. And it's not in the money and all the stuff and the career. I mean, those things are fucking awesome. I mean, who doesn't want them? Who doesn't want a bank account that's bursting at the seams, and a house that's fully paid for and all of that stuff? We all do. But But the starting place is inside. And I think the more we get to grips with that, and the more we realize that, the more powerful we'll be, and the more fun we will have on this journey. And I think that's another thing that I want to talk about and kind of discuss is it's not meant to be hard. It's not meant to be kind of for the chosen few. It's meant for all of us. You know, we are here to have a fucking good time. So that's that is what I'm here to explore with you and to discuss with you. And I'm sure it will get messy sometimes and awkward, like what just happened. My computer decided to close, so I couldn't see how this recording was happening. But that's all part of the process, and that's what's going to make this podcast different to the others that are out there. And I hope you feel some magic. I'm feeling some magic, and it's making me very happy. And I cannot tell you how excited I am that I finally showed up for my fucking self. And and that's one thing I'm going to work on, is not saying "and" so much. So these are going to get better. These conversations are just going to get better and better and better. So I think we're at 17 minutes, and if you've listened thus far and you haven't turned the sound of my voice off, thank you. I so appreciate you being here, and thank me for showing up. I love that quote by Snoop Dogg, which I will put on my Instagram, where he thanks himself for never giving up and always showing up. And that's one thing I do is I show up, and I do my best to show up even when it's hard. So I promise to show up for myself, and hopefully in showing up for myself, I will show up for you too. So beauties, thank you for being with me on episode 1 of the Lulu Essey Podcast. Have a beautiful week, and see you next week.